Hello everybody and welcome to the Helske Energy Save webinar on eco products. My name is David Rossiter and I'm the General Manager with Helske Energy Save. Helske Energy Save, the business was introduced to Ireland in April 2020. At this stage I'd like to thank the Hardware Association of Ireland for inviting us to do this webinar. We do appreciate the opportunity for us to actually be in front of their members, so thank you for that opportunity. In this webinar, we're going to introduce to you a new product called NANO Home. It is an insulating plaster based on nanotechnologies. So that's what we're going to do in this presentation. Now, I'll break down the presentation into a number of areas. So over the next 20 minutes, what we'll do is, first of all, we'll introduce Helske Energy Save, the company. We'll talk about the sustainability agenda of Helske Energy Save. And we look at our core values, I suppose, and the pillars that are actually behind and how we drive the business. Secondly, then we move on to the product itself, NANO Home, which is a thermal insulating plaster. This plaster is based on nanotechnologies. So we'll give you some, I suppose, technical details on the performance of the plaster and how it works. Thirdly, then what we do is we will look at some examples and solutions of where you can actually use the NANO Home plaster. So we'll give you examples, solutions and different applications. Then what we do is we move in to show you some case studies of where we've actually applied the material in Irish situations, where customers have had certain issues, maybe with space or whatever, and they have used the NANO Home plaster in those situations to solve those problems. So we look at those case studies. And then we finally wrap up with a little piece around, say, certification and compliance. So that'll be just some technical information. Okay, so that's what we have planned now. So in the presentation over the next 20 minutes. So we're going to kick it off now with a little short video about Helske Energy Save and the business and just about us. So I hope you enjoyed that, and then come back after that and we'll get into the presentation. Thanks very much.
What if your home was an extension of your body, where every indoor space, every surface you touched was in harmony with you, bringing nature back into your home? We spend more than 3/4 of our lives indoors, often without enough fresh air. Imagine if your home, like you, could breathe by introducing materials that facilitate healthy living in your home. Since 2013, we have dedicated our research and development on the nanoscale to improve building materials, to provide solutions to everyday problems. Pushing technological boundaries, engineering energy-saving innovations to protect the environment while enhancing your well-being and providing a safe and comfortable living space for you and your family. As pioneers, our commitment to progress is underlined by our collaborative process, connecting with industry and universities, where we seek and nurture new ideas, bringing them from concept to life. With our human-centric, environmentally responsible and innovative solutions, more and more we are being recognized as a driving force for next-generation building materials. We are Helske Energy Save, naturally better.
Welcome back everybody, and now we move on to the next section, which is on sustainability. We at Helske operate under 3 core pillars of the business. It's people, nature and innovation. We're a very strong people-focused company. I suppose the primary focus of the business is to provide sustainable living solutions for communities we work in by way of our people care facilities, but also to manufacture environmentally friendly building products. We've always had a very innovative business, and in our research centre we have developed a number of new technologies like our NANO Home thermal insulating plaster, which we will discuss and talk about later on. Nature and sustainable manufacturing are behind everything we do, to the sourcing of local raw materials and to the manufacturing within the process that minimises the impact on the local environment. We work in line with the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals Programme. Under this programme, we've outlined, I suppose, and target a number of the 17 areas that are on that programme. We work to, I suppose, achieve better performance on an annual basis that brings us in line, I suppose, with reducing our carbon footprint on the business. In addition to this, we have recently launched a programme called Helske. Helske is to do with our corporate social responsibility. And in this area, we have a plan, I suppose, to look at nature and the environment. The nature and the environment piece will work around recycling and waste control. And the second area we look at will be to do with interacting with people and society in general. And we have a plan to work with, say, students within universities and children within, say, creches. We call NanoCoat Home a smart plaster because of the technology behind it. Now let's move on and have a look at how NanoCoat Home Plaster actually works. In a household, NanoCoat Home will protect against moisture issues and improve the warmth of your home. Heat and moisture penetrate the walls and floors of every household. Modern technologies included in NanoCoat Home guarantee the performance. Millions of glass spheres are added to our finishing plaster, which guarantees this thermal performance. On a molecular level, the nanoparticles react with each other, pass their energy onto other particles, and reflect heat back to the room. The plaster becomes a heat capacitor and holds the heat that surrounds it and passes through it. The plaster is vapor permeable and ensures breathability of the walls. NanoCoat Home also prevents the growth of mold and mildew, which improves the hygienic standard of the building. At Helske Energy Save, we improve the thermal comfort of buildings and reduce heating costs. At the same time, NanoCoat Home reinforces the plaster work of the walls, restoring good finishes and improves the thermal insulation properties of the building. We did some on-site testing with a hygrometer to, I suppose, display the performance of the NanoCoat Home. From this slide here, you'll see we talk about NanoCoat Home being water permeable. So again, this protects against condensation, humidity and molds. If we can raise the surface temperature, as we spoke about before, it'll reduce or improve the dew point. So it'll stop, I suppose, issues around thermal bridging and reduce the risk around water condensation. From this image now, you'll see the hygrometer test that we carried out. We had a room where we actually tested it. The temperature in the room was 25 degrees. The humidity in the room was 53.5. And then we calculated from the hygrometer that the dew point would be 15.6 degrees Celsius. So there was a risk around mold and moisture issues around 15.6 degrees. When we applied the 2mm NanoCoat Home to the wall, we retested, again temperature quite similar. Now you notice that the humidity in the room has dropped from 34 to 34.5 degrees. And that was due to the NanoCoat Home, the absorption of it. And you'll also see that the dew point has improved down to 8.6 degrees. When it gets down to that level now, you'll see the risk of moisture issues, mold formulation and all has dropped substantially. The NanoCoat Home product is available in a number of sizes of buckets. The buckets range in size from 30 litre down to 1 litre. 30 litre will be used for larger projects, maybe industrial projects, and then the smaller buckets can be used for upgrade and, say, repair work. Every bucket has a QR code on the side. This QR code will actually take you to a location on the website where you can see how the material is applied and application instructions, but it'll also give you some information on technical performance and any other certification requirement or information that you need. The NanoCoat Home is actually part of a system. So again, from this slide, you can see we have a range of preparation products. We have a primer sealer that will seal surfaces maybe that might absorb too quickly. So we've that primer sealer product. We also have a bond grit product. This product will actually apply a key to a smooth surface. So if you have a very smooth surface or you have a painted wall, you'd use the bond grit to give it a bit of key. We also have a joint finisher which will finish plasterboard joints or will repair maybe dents or holes in plaster finishes that need to be smoothed out. And then we have the Nano Coat Home finishing plaster, which goes on as a 2mm thermal insulating plaster. In the application of the materials, we've two ways of applying the material. Firstly, you apply it the traditional way by trowel, and normal plasterers can do that. They apply a 2mm finishing coat, and then it's sanded the next day to make it smooth. The second alternative now is kind of a newer way of doing it, is using a spray-on plaster. So you can see in this image here, the spray has been applied to a window jamb. Again, 2mm thickness going on in that application. The Nano Coat Home itself can be applied to a full range of surfaces. You can see we can work with concrete, we can work with brick, we can go on to timber, we can even go on to glass. Again, as long as you use the system, you can apply this material to that full suite of surfaces. We have actually a very good video here of the performance of the Nano Coat Home. So we call this the ice test. So in this video you'll see that we've applied the Nano Coat Home to a hot plate, and we've applied it to half of it. And the heat actually heats up the hot plate, and you'll see that the heat retention that the Nano Coat Home performs in this application, that the ice doesn't melt. And you'll see that that's the nanotechnology delivering the performance of retaining the heat. The Nano Coat Home is a very unique plaster, and as such has unique abilities. We have patented this material in a number of countries across Europe. The Nano Coat Home can be used in a number of areas. Specifically, Nano Coat Home will save energy, so as a thermal plaster it'll reduce your heating bills. It'll also work as minimising thermal bridges, so if you have issues around windows and doors, or windows and floor areas where there is a cold bridging issue, the Nano Coat Home will help you with that. It's a solution also against mould and the formation of mould, and we get into more specifics on that later on when we show you some of the applications. It also reduces moisture in a room, and it absorbs the moisture and reduces the risk of condensation within that room. So all of those together end up creating what we would call a healthy living environment. So when you look at this image here and what you're talking about, if you use Nano Coat Home in a room and you solve issues of cold bridging, you solve heat issues, that actually will create a healthier home with an improved thermal comfort within that particular room. Now let's move on and have a look at a number of case studies in Irish situations where we have applied the Nano Coat Home plaster in a couple of situations. First up we have is a bathroom, an ensuite in a property in Castleknock. From the image there you'll see they have a high level of mould in the bathroom. This issue has occurred with them multiple times over many years, where they would clean out the mould, maybe paint it up or whatever, but every couple of years the mould comes back and causes an issue. The ensuite itself had no window in it. There was an extractor fan which was working. It was a skin finish on the walls, but you can imagine a very high level of humidity and moisture in that room on a regular basis in showers. So the solution was we cleaned it, we applied one layer of bond grit because the wall was a painted wall, so we used the bond grit to give key, and then we added 2 layers of the Nano Coat Home which was troweled on to give it the finished surface. You can see from the images here before and after that the room was cleaned up and looks as good as new. We completed that work in October, and we checked back in with the client in March, and they've had no mould issues. The next case study we're going to look at is to do with cold bridging and how to reduce cold bridging, particularly around window reveals. This case study is a project in County Kildare where the client was actually upgrading their windows to triple glazed units and was worried about a thermal issue on the reveals of the window because he wasn't in a position to put traditional insulation in that application. So what we did was we applied 2 mil of the NANO Coat Home to the window reveal. We used this one as an undercoat plaster, so it went in under the traditional skim finish plaster. So the NANO Coat Home was applied to stop the actual cold bridging issue, because now he was going to have a high performance window and he was just worried about the performance of a cold bridging issue in the window reveal. You can see here now the before and after. You can see that the windows went in with an opportunity to repair that reveal. The picture on the right shows the NANO Coat Home at the top, finished with the skim coat plaster as the finishing coat. This image here actually will show you what he was trying to do by applying the NANO Coat Home, and you'll see some testing to prove how the NANO Coat Home works. The top of the slide shows the corner of the window reveal showing a temperature of 12 degrees, and when the NANO Coat Home was applied, it actually raises the surface temperature of the reveal, which reduces the risk of condensation. And then likewise, the second below shows that when you apply the NANO Coat Home, that the humidity level in the room actually reduces as well. So with the reduction of the humidity and the surface temperature increase, this reduces the risk of a cold bridging issue, particularly around the dew point being on the surface, which would cause condensation, which would cause mold. So this was totally rectified by using NANO Coat Home to stop this. The next case study we're going to look at is an issue on a staircase. So this is a renovation job, and a lot of times when you're doing a renovation job, you're struck for space, and you're often stuck for space up a staircase because there's legal obligations about the width of a staircase. So you can't use traditional insulation materials, and this was the case on this project in Sanford Road in Dublin 6. So you can see the image there of an old wall which has some paper on it and some paint on it. So what we did was we applied the bond grit onto the old surface, which to give it a key. Then we put 2 mil of NANO Coat Home. Again, the customer was finishing the full property with the skim coat. So again, this was used an undercoat plaster and was finished with traditional skim finish over it. You can see from the images here of the finished product, it looks very well, it looks like traditional, but the customer now has got some insulation in the space where he couldn't get traditional insulation in, and it was a good result, I suppose, for his only other alternative was to leave that staircase with nothing on it. The final area we'd like to have a look at is to do with compliance and certification. You'll see here that the material, the NANO Coat Home product, has a number of technical properties across the standard that people would be familiar with in energy use products. So you'll see we have a thermal conductivity rating here, 0.0396, which is actually quite good. It's as good as, it's actually better than glass fibre and in that range. The product is vapor permeable. We have a rating for that. You can see we have the fire rating, we've emissivity rating, and we've another of other technical property specifications there. The material can also help you in your LEED and BREEAM rating, so just note that. And then the final section, I suppose, we have is independent certification from right across Europe. We've worked with a number of the large testing houses who have tested and rated our materials. So you'll see we have CSTB here from France, which is a very well recognised name. We've Ecolab, and then we've DMPA, which is the Institute of Building Materials in Germany. Couple this with all the EN standards. Again, you'll see them listed there. So we have full compliance and certification across the range. We have a very active marketing support programme coordinated by our marketing team here in Ireland. We have a strong online and social media presence, coupled with point of sale displays, marketing materials, and innovative product packaging. We can also provide training for your staff and demonstrations for your customers. In 2021, in a new campaign, we will be launching a new plasterboard called Maestro Plasterboard. This is the first plasterboard of its kind, and it contains aerogel insulation inside the core of the board. Okay, everybody, now we've reached the end of the presentation. Please feel free to give us a call or contact us if you have any questions about anything we showed you today, or if you have any projects where you'd like to maybe consult with us or maybe think that we would have a solution for you. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for your attention and your time today, and I'd also like to thank the Hardware Association of Ireland for inviting us to do this presentation, and for Aoife for her effort in putting it together.